How are you folks? Councillor Gavin Pepper here, and I'm here in Crumlin tonight with a mother. This is Nicola Fox, right? Now we're going to start off by just showing you an individual. This here is Jim Sheehan, right? And he's in the paper here, and he's famous. Debbie McCann done an article on this fella. He's famous for a word that they use when they take children off mothers to give them to their fathers, called parental alienation. Now I've never heard of this word before, but this is after happening to Nicola here. So Nicola, can you just explain in the best way what actually happened to you and your son Harry? So to just give you an idea in the background of this, Harry is Nicola's son. At the moment now, Harry is in with full custody with his father over in the UK, where Nicola gets a few hours a month to see him. This is after being reversed from when Nicola had custody. So she had custody up till Harry was 6, am I correct?
Correct.
Yeah. And Jim Sheehan wasn't happy that the fact that this father, by the way, who was involved with Manchester United, was fighting to get custody of Harry because he wasn't happy that he had to fly over here once a month to see him. But he was not stopped from seeing his son. He could have came over here every week. He wasn't, it's not one of those cases where you wanted to see a kid. It's not the mother's fault if he's living in the UK and he has to fly over here. That's not the mother's problem. But that's what happened. And now, this is after reversing around, and now she's flying over to see her son for a couple of hours under supervised visits. Can you explain to the people, please?
Yes. So Harry has lived here with me in Dublin 12 since he was 6 weeks old, and he was a very happy little boy. He was immersed in the community. He went to school at Joey's in Terranure. He was in GAA. He was in the Scouts. He was in mezzo music in Terranure. He was a wonderful child. All my neighbours here in the cul-de-sac remember him cycling around on his bike, knocking for his friends. But during his young life, his father started a custody battle he was born in 2017, and by 2018 I received legal letters for full custody he wanted of Harry. So unfortunately, I couldn't obey a court order by the time Harry was 5 years of age because he was so distressed having to travel to the UK. The burden of travel was put on Harry and I by Jim Sheehan, despite him knowing the distresses it was causing the child. The welfare of the child was totally ignored by Jim Sheehan and by Ruth Morrow Farrell, who were brought on board to try and help alleviate the pressures on the family and the stress it was causing the child. But unfortunately, they were paid privately by Harry's father, and ultimately they gained full custody of Harry. On the 23rd of June 2023, he was taken out of his school in St. Joey's in Terranure and brought to the Circuit Court in Smithfield, where he told Ruth Morrow Farrell that he didn't want to go to Manchester. He hadn't seen his daddy for 8 months. His father chose not to come here despite my pleadings to him to please just come and see Harry for one day, any weekend you want, just to see him stand on the sideline at his GAA or at his take him to mezzo music, go to the cinema. Please don't force him to have to go to Manchester. He just can't take it anymore, the child. Short of me forcing Harry into the car and driving him to Dublin Airport and standing on a queue for Ryanair, where there's recordings of the child distressed and pleading with me not to send me, Mum, please can we just go home? And I'd send these to his dad and say, look at how distressed he is. Please, will you just come to Dublin? And he refused to. He was being advised not to do that. That the longer I disobeyed a court order, the better it would be for him in court. And therefore, he chose not to come and visit Harry. And on the 23rd of June, they took him out of school and they brought him to the court. And then they took him from me, from my arms, kicking and screaming. And I was surrounded by the Gardaí and told to step away from my son. And they handed him to his dad, who hadn't seen him for 8 months. And he picked him up, put him over his shoulder and walked out of the courts, flanked by Jim Sheehan and Ruth Morrow Farrell, straight to Dublin Airport and taken to Manchester. And I didn't get to see my son for 6 weeks. They wouldn't let me see him. And then Jim Sheehan suggested Jim Sheen suggested that we have supervised access in a place called Help Hands in Manchester, and I had to travel there on a fortnightly basis to see him and then leave him. After 4 hours, he would be clinging to me and pleading at me to take him home. I had to leave my son there for 12 months of this trauma and this upset. And now I'm being told if you speak out about this, you are going to get fined, you're going to be done for defamation, you're breaking the in-camera rule. But this is how these vile villains are getting away with what they're doing. It's not just me. Since I've opened my story on social media, so many mothers have contacted me, thanking me and asking for their to support them against what they're going through. So this needs to be exposed on a major scale. What is happening in the corrupt Irish family courts on a daily basis. They're separating children from their mothers based on this parental alienation crap.
The word I never heard of.
It's not even allowed. It's contested. It's not allowed. It's not allowed in the UK, and it's Helen McEntee promised that she was going to ban it in Irish courts, and it's still being used. Up to a week ago, Jim Sheehan sent an invoice to another mother because he attended court and he wasn't even requested to. He's still operating. He's protected by the judges, by the judiciary, by his brother, who's Gareth Sheehan, in the courts. This is how he's got away with it since the 80s. He has separated so many children from their mothers, and